The cold was a living thing in the great hall of Bletsoe Castle. It crept from the mortar between the limestone blocks and coiled around the ankles, a serpent of winter damp that no amount of fresh-strewn herbs could entirely banish. The scent of mint and rosemary, crushed underfoot by leather boots, was a fragile defiance against the stone's pervasive chill, and the heavier, earthier smells of wool, wet fur, and men. You are 12 years old, and the world is a tapestry woven by others, its threads pulled taut by hands you cannot see. Your name is Margaret Beaufort, a name that carries the weight of royal blood and vast estates. Yet you are learning that such things are not a shield. For a girl, they are a cage, gilded and admired, but a cage nonetheless. You stand in the penumbra of a great stone pillar, pulling a woolen cloak around your slight shoulders, a futile gesture against a cold that has taken root deep within your bones. A cold that has nothing to do with the year 1443. Before you, arranged near the cavernous maw of the fireplace, are the architects of your fate. Candlelight shivers across their faces, carving momentary reliefs of seriousness and avarice from the shadows. Their words are low and urgent, a murmur of alliances, inheritances, and strategy. Their breath fogs in the frigid air, each puff a ghost of the words that are shackling your future. "The girl brings substantial holdings," says a voice that cuts through the others with the clean, sharp edge of unquestioned authority. "It belongs to your guardian, William de la Pole, the Duke of Suffolk." A ring on his gesturing hand, a ruby dark as blood, catches the firelight in a predatory glint. "Her inheritance includes lands in Somerset, Devon, and Dorset. A marriage alliance now, with my son, secures those holdings for our cause." What cause? The question is a frantic bird beating against the bars of your ribs, but you know it must not be allowed to escape. Girls of 12, even those with the blood of John of Gaunt in their veins, do not interrupt when powerful men are speaking. To be seen is expected, to be heard is an impertinence. So you remain silent, a porcelain doll set out for display, and you turn your gaze to the boy who will be your husband before the month is out. John de la Pole, Suffolk's son. He is perhaps 14, caught in that awkward, gangling phase of youth where his hands seem too large for his wrists and his feet too long for his legs. He stands near the hearth, trying to absorb its heat, yet he looks as cold as you feel. He chances a glance at you, a quick, furtive look from under his brow, before his eyes dart away as if the sight of you is a source of acute embarrassment. You see in that fleeting look, not cruelty, but a shared helplessness. He is a pawn too, though his gender grants him a better square on the board. He will inherit his father's titles, his father's power. You will simply transfer everything you are and everything you own to him. A coin, being passed from one purse to another. The rushes crackle as the men shift their weight, the sound of their consensus. Suffolk's voice drones on, outlining the terms of the marriage contract as if you were a parcel of land, not a living, breathing girl standing 3 feet away. The ceremony will take place at Bletsoe within the fortnight. The girl's lands will be administered by my house until she reaches majority. What he does not say, what does not need to be said, hangs in the air, thick as the wood smoke. My family will control her wealth. My family will grow stronger. The men nod, their faces impassive in the flickering light. They are the hunters, and you the prize. The tapestries on the wall, their vibrant threads dulled by time, depict scenes of the noble hunt. Lords on horseback, hounds straining at the leash, a stag cornered and terrified. Even at 12, you understand the bitter irony. You are the stag. The wedding day dawns under a sky the color of pewter, the ground cloaked in a frost that glitters like scattered pearls. You wear a gown of deep blue silk, the color of royalty, a shade meant to honor your lineage. But the fabric, heavy and cold, feels alien against your skin. It has been tailored to your child's frame, but the weight of it, the sheer volume of the skirts, and the elaborate headdress that presses down on your scalp, makes you feel like a changeling, a child dressed in the borrowed finery of a woman she is not yet ready to be. The chapel at Bletsoe is a small, austere chamber of stone that seems to drink the light and sound. The few candles in their iron sconces throw long, wavering shadows that make the painted saints on the walls seem to move, their expressions shifting between pity and judgment. You kneel on the cold stone floor, the hardness of it already seeping through the thin silk of your gown, a dull ache beginning in your knees that you know will be a constant companion today. You look at John kneeling beside you. He is pale, his jaw tight. When the priest prompts him, he begins his vows, his voice cracking on the unfamiliar Latin syllables. Ego Johannes te Margaritam in uxorem meam accipio. I, John, take you, Margaret, as my wife. The words echo in the frozen air, each one a hammer blow forging the chains that will bind you to this boy, this stranger. A wave of nausea churns in your stomach. Then, it is your turn. You lift your chin. Your voice, when it comes, is a surprise even to you. It is steady, clear, devoid of the tremor that racks your hands. Ego Margareta te Johannem in maritam meam accipio. I, Margaret, take you, John, as my husband. The words taste of ash and ice in your mouth, but you speak them perfectly. You have been tutored for this. You have been trained since you could walk to do your duty, to bury your feelings beneath layers of propriety and obedience. You are a Beaufort. You are the daughter of a duke. You do not falter. The months that follow are a lesson in gilded captivity. You live in the de la Pole household, a countess in name, a ward in reality. You are treated with the formal respect due to your rank, yet supervised with the meticulous oversight applied to a priceless but volatile property. Your ladies-in-waiting are not companions, but wardens. Your tutors are not mentors, but shapers, molding you into a more refined asset. You cannot travel without permission. You cannot write a letter that is not read. You cannot make a single decision about the vast income generated by the lands that bear your name. This transformation from child to chattel is most stark during the long, formal meals in the Great Hall. You sit at the high table beside your young husband, a silent, decorative figure in rich fabrics and elaborate headdresses. You watch the adults, your guardian Suffolk chief among them, as they discuss matters of state, military campaigns in France, political squabbles at court, the ever-present tension between the houses of Lancaster and York. You listen, you learn, you absorb every nuance, every name, every whispered insinuation. You are not permitted to speak unless addressed, so you become an expert observer. You learn to read the subtle cartography of power on the faces around you, which lords command genuine respect, which rely on bluster and fear, which are merely decorative figures propped up by the ambitions of others. The food itself is a parable of control. You are served the choicest cuts of venison and swan, your plate dusted with exotic spices like saffron and mace, a constant, public demonstration of the de la Pole family's control over your wealth. But you cannot choose what you eat. Servants bring you predetermined portions at predetermined times. Even your diet is not your own. You eat what you are given, just as you have been given a husband, a home, a life. During these months, a change begins within you. The fear does not vanish, but it crystallizes. It hardens from a formless terror into a sharp, cold diamond of determination. You listen not just with your ears, but with your entire being, filing away every scrap of information, every detail of the complex web of bloodlines and allegiances that govern the nobility. You are being forged in a fire you did not choose, and you are beginning to realize that the only way to survive is to become as hard and as sharp as the forces that shape you. The year 1444 brings news that shatters the fragile stasis of your life. It arrives not with a thunderclap, but with the quiet, unceremonious cruelty that has come to define your existence. You are in the solar, the private chamber where the noble women of the household spend their days. Sunlight, thin and pale as watered milk, streams through the leaded glass, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. You are bent over an embroidery frame, your needle creating tiny, precise stitches in silk thread on an altar cloth. It is delicate, meticulous work, the kind of skill that demonstrates both your noble status and your patient, disciplined nature. Each stitch is a tiny rebellion, an act of creation and control in a life that affords you neither. The door opens without a knock. William de la Pole enters, his presence sucking the warmth from the room. His face is a mask of gravity, but his eyes are cold and calculating, already looking past the present tragedy to the future opportunities. "Your husband is dead," he says. The words are flat, devoid of warmth or comfort. He does not approach you but stands by the door, as if delivering a business report. Fever took him in the night. Your needle stops mid-stitch. The thread is a deep, shimmering gold, the color of royal regalia. You do not look up. You do not gasp or weep. You have learned a vital lesson in this house. Emotion is a currency, and you are too poor to spend it carelessly. To show grief is to show weakness, and weakness is a vulnerability that men like Suffolk will exploit. You focus on the golden thread, on the half-finished image of a lamb, and you force your breathing to remain even. "I see," you say quietly. Your voice is a whisper of silk. Then, with a hand that is miraculously steady, you push the needle through the taut linen, completing the stitch. It is perfect, precise, controlled. Suffolk watches you, his head tilted slightly. You can feel his gaze on the crown of your head. He is a merchant evaluating his merchandise, and he is impressed. This is not the reaction of a hysterical child. This is the composure of a woman. A girl who can receive news of her husband's death without fainting is a girl who can be trusted to behave appropriately in any political situation. She is a more valuable asset than he had realized. You will, of course, remain in this household until other arrangements can be made. Your mourning period will be observed naturally, but it will not be extended unnecessarily. You nod, your eyes still fixed on your embroidery. You understand the unspoken meeting. Your mourning will last precisely as long as it takes him to negotiate your next sale. You are 13 years old. You have been a wife. You are now a widow, and your price has just gone up. Under English law, the marriage, having been between such young children, was never fully binding in the legal sense. The consummation was a formality, but your youth provided a technicality. This means your inheritance, the vast Beaufort lands and fortune, remains your own. It does not pass to the de la Pole family. You are once again one of the wealthiest unmarried females in England. The stag is back in the forest, and the hunters are gathering their hounds. The months of your widowhood are a strange interlude, a brief, sharp intake of breath in a life of suffocation. Though you remain under Suffolk's unyielding control, the absence of a husband, even a boy husband, grants you a sliver of autonomy. You use it not for frivolity, but for fortification. You throw yourself into your studies with a ravenous hunger. Your tutors, accustomed to teaching the rudiments of courtly French and passable Latin to docile noble girls, are startled by your ferocity. You do not simply learn, you consume. You master Latin not just to read prayers, but with the fluency of a scholar, devouring Cicero and the complexities of legal documents. You perfect your French until it is elegant and sophisticated, the language of international diplomacy. But most importantly, you demand to be taught the administration of your own estates. At first, the lessons were meant to be superficial, a gloss to make you a more attractive wife to your next husband, a woman who could understand the basics of her spouse's affairs. But you push for more. You insist on seeing the account books, the ledgers that detail the true scope of your inheritance. Poring over the endless columns of figures, the lists of rents from thousands of acres of productive farmland, the income from stone quarries, timber forests, and river rights for mills and fisheries, you begin to grasp the enormity of what you represent. You are not just wealthy, you are a financial power unto yourself, one of the richest individuals in the kingdom. This knowledge is both intoxicating and terrifying. Every pound of annual income, every acre of land, makes you a more glittering prize. Your inheritance cannot be separated from your body. To marry you is to gain control of it all. You learn the bitter truth that you cannot refuse marriage, for to do so would be an act of rebellion that would see your lands confiscated by the crown. Your wealth is not yours to command. It is the bait in a trap that is closing around you. This reality is brought into sharp focus in the spring of 1445, when your mother, Margaret Beauchamp, is permitted to visit you at Bletsoe. She is a woman who has weathered her own arranged marriages, a veteran of the same campaign you are just beginning. You meet in the castle's herb garden, a rare space of carefully cultivated life amidst the cold stone. The first tentative flowers are pushing through the soil, and the air is fragrant with lavender and thyme. It is one of the few places you can speak without the certainty of being overheard by Suffolk's spies. Your mother looks at you, her 14-year-old daughter, already a widow, and her eyes hold a universe of love and weary resignation. "You must understand," she says, her voice low and urgent, her hand finding yours. Her skin is cool. "Your inheritance is both your strength and your chain. The lands your father left you give you influence, a seat at the table, but they will also ensure you are never, ever free to choose your own path." You sit with your hands folded in your lap, the posture of attentive obedience so thoroughly trained into you, but your mind is racing, processing her words, fitting them into the harsh framework of your own experience. "What would happen?" you ask, the question a dry whisper, though you already know the answer. "If I refused to marry?" Your mother's face tightens, confirming your fears. Your wardship would be sold to another lord. He would have the right to force your marriage. If you remained disobedient, your lands would be forfeit to the crown as punishment. A woman's inheritance exists only so long as she remains obedient to the men who control her. To refuse marriage is to declare yourself a rebel against the natural order of things. And rebels, my daughter, lose everything. She squeezes your hand. Around you, the herbs release their scent into the cool spring air. They are beautiful, fragrant, and planted in neat, orderly rows, utterly contained within the garden walls, a perfect metaphor for your life. The news of your next marriage arrives with the summer heat. The decision has been made far away, in the halls of Westminster, by the king himself. King Henry VI, A man more suited to piety than politics has been influenced by his advisors. Your wardship, and therefore your hand, has been granted to Edmund Tudor, the Earl of Richmond. The arrangement is a masterstroke of political expediency. Edmund and his brother Jasper are the king's half-brothers, born of his mother Catherine of Valois's secret marriage to a Welsh courtier, Owen Tudor. Granting your vast wealth to Edmund shores up the Tudor family's precarious position at court, provides Edmund with a fortune to fund his military obligations, and forges a critical alliance between the Beaufort and Tudor factions, strengthening the Lancastrian cause against its growing rivals. You learn that Edmund Tudor is 24 years old, a man, not a boy, a decade your senior, a man connected by blood to the royal family, a man accustomed to power and prestige, a man who has been promised you and your fortune, and who fully intends to claim both. In the autumn, you are summoned to Westminster Palace. The journey is a formal procession, your retinue of guards and attendants serving not to ensure your comfort, but your compliance. Westminster is a sprawling, chaotic city within a city, the heart of royal government. The Great Hall, where your future will be negotiated for a second time, is a breathtaking, intimidating space. The hammer beam roof soars into shadows high above, and the vast floor is a sea of rustling rushes. The sheer scale of it dwarfs everyone within, making private conversation impossible, every word a public declaration. You stand beside a pillar, its stone carved with a riot of intricate foliage, and you watch the men who hold your life in their hands. And then you see him, Edmund Tudor. He is tall and powerfully built, radiating a confidence so absolute it borders on arrogance. He moves with the easy grace of a man who has never had to ask for anything twice. He is speaking with the king's advisors, his voice carrying clearly across the cavernous space, discussing your assets as if you were a prize mare he was inspecting. The girl's lands will provide substantial income for our household, Edmund says, his gaze flicking towards you for a brief evaluative moment. It is not a cruel look, but it is entirely impersonal. It is the look of a man assessing a valuable acquisition. With proper management, the estates should yield enough to support our position at court and fund our military obligations. You meet his gaze for a fraction of a second. He is handsome, you suppose, with dark hair and the strong jaw of his Welsh father. But in his eyes, you see an obdurate will, a profound self-assurance that leaves no room for the desires of a 14-year-old girl. He sees your youth, your health, your wealth. He sees everything a nobleman could want in a wife. He does not see you. King Henry VI, a gentle, troubled man of 24 himself, already showing the first signs of the mental fragility that will one day plunge his kingdom into civil war, gives his royal assent. He smiles faintly, a benevolent, distant blessing. His endorsement makes the marriage a royal command. To refuse now would not be mere disobedience, it would be treason. Your second wedding, in the early weeks of 1446, is a far grander affair than the first. It befits Edmund's higher status and the political weight of the alliance. You are dressed in cloth of gold, the most expensive fabric in the known world, so heavy it feels as though you are wearing armor. On your head is a circlet of sapphires and pearls that marks you as the future Countess of Richmond. The ceremony is a magnificent piece of political theater, a blend of sacred ritual and secular power-broking. The Bishop of Winchester officiates, his presence lending the full authority of the church to the transaction. The chapel is crowded with noble witnesses, their faces a gallery of the most powerful families in England, all here to ensure this bond cannot be questioned or annulled. You stand your vows in a clear, steady voice. You have learned this part well. Show no reluctance, show no emotion, invite no speculation. You are a model of noble obedience. Edmund's vows are confident, possessive. When he places the ring on your finger, his hand, large and warm, completely envelops yours. The ring itself is a heavy band of gold, set with a sapphire the size of a pigeon's egg. It is beautiful, but its weight is a constant, physical reminder of the new power that governs your life, the formal surrender of your independence.
The consummation that night is not the confused, pathetic fumbling of your first marriage. You are 14, considered a woman by the standards of your time. Edmund is an experienced man who understands precisely what he is doing, what he is claiming. The encounter is brief, efficient, and entirely focused on the legal and physical establishment of his dominance. It is the final seal on the contract.
Life with Edmund is a move from a gilded cage to a stone fortress. He takes you to his estates in Wales, to Caldecott Castle, a place built for war, not comfort. The wind howls off the Severn estuary, and the walls are thick and grim. Your daily routine is structured entirely around Edmund's needs, his political ambitions, his military preoccupations. He is not unkind, but he is utterly self-absorbed. Your preferences are a distant afterthought, considered only when they do not conflict with his own. He immediately seizes control of your inheritance with an energy that is both impressive and terrifying. He installs his own Welshmen as stewards and bailiffs across your vast estates in England, reorganizing everything. The enormous income from your lands is diverted to fund his ambitions, to raise troops, to secure alliances, to play his part in the great, dangerous game of Lancasterian politics. You watch it all happen with a growing, cold clarity. You are the Countess of Richmond, one of the highest-ranking women in the land, yet you have less real power than your husband's stable master. Your wealth fuels his rise, but you have no say in how it is spent. You are learning the fundamental truth of your existence. To be a noblewoman is to be a conduit, a vessel through which wealth and power flow from one man to another. You are 28 years old, a widow for the third time, but you are not the girl you were. The Yorkists are in total control. Your son, Henry, now 14, the most prominent remaining Lancastrian claimant, is forced to flee into exile in Brittany for his own safety. You are alone, on the losing side, your son an ocean away. It is the nadir of your fortunes, a moment of profound defeat. But the Margaret Beaufort forged in the fires of Bletsoe and Pembroke does not know how to surrender. She knows how to adapt. She knows how to survive. Her next move is her most brilliant and audacious yet. She arranges her fourth and final marriage to Thomas, Lord Stanley. Stanley is one of an entirely different breed. He is the ultimate political survivor, a man of immense power in the north of England who has navigated the Wars of the Roses by placing his family's interests above any sworn allegiance. He has fought for both York and Lancaster, a pragmatist in an age of zealots. Marrying him is a gamble. He is a key figure in the Yorkist court of Edward IV. To some, it looks like a capitulation. To you, it is an infiltration. Your marriage to Stanley, which takes place in 1472, is not one of affection, but of cool, calculated alliance. It is a partnership of two master political operators. Under the protection of his powerful name, you are able to re-enter the highest circles of power. You serve in the household of Edward IV's queen, Elizabeth Woodville. You stand at the very heart of your enemy's court, a model of piety and obedience, your face a serene mask. And all the while, you plot. You maintain a secret correspondence with your exiled son. You use your wealth, now combined with Stanley's influence, to quietly cultivate a party of discontented nobles. You are playing the long game, waiting for the moment, for the crack in the Yorkist facade. That crack appears in 1483, with the sudden death of Edward IV. His brother, Richard of Gloucester, seizes the throne, declaring Edward's sons illegitimate and imprisoning them in the Tower of London. Richard III is crowned king, but his claim is tainted by usurpation and the dark rumors that begin to swirl around the fate of the princes in the Tower. This is your moment, the moment you have been preparing for your entire adult life. While publicly loyal to Richard III, you begin to conspire with a breathtaking audacity. You enter into a secret pact with Elizabeth Woodville, the Dowager Queen and your former mistress, a woman whose sons Richard has almost certainly murdered. You propose an alliance that would once have been unthinkable. Your Lancastrian son, Henry Tudor, will return from exile, claim the throne, and marry Elizabeth's eldest daughter, Elizabeth of York, uniting the warring houses forever. It is a plan of genius, a political masterstroke designed to heal a wounded nation and place your son at its head. The risks are astronomical. If you are discovered, the penalty is not just confiscation of property, but a brutal and certain death for treason. Your life and Henry's hang by the single, delicate thread of your conspiracy. Your co-conspirators are discovered. The rebellion fails. But you, shielded by the immense power of your husband Thomas Stanley, survive. Richard III confiscates your lands, but he dare not execute his powerful stepfather-in-law's wife. He places you under Stanley's custody, essentially imprisoning you in your husband's house, forbidding you from any contact with your son. He thinks he has neutralized you. He is wrong. From your confinement, you continue to scheme. Through clandestine channels, you help orchestrate Henry's next invasion attempt. In August 1485, Henry Tudor lands at Milford Haven in Wales with a small army of French mercenaries and English exiles. Richard III marches to meet him. The fate of England will be decided on a field near Market Bosworth. Your husband, Thomas Stanley, and his brother William command a formidable private army. They march to the battlefield, but halt, positioning themselves on a hill overlooking the fray. They declare for neither side. Richard III, holding Stanley's son hostage, orders him to join the royal forces. Stanley refuses. Henry Tudor, your son, sends a desperate plea for his stepfather to intervene. Stanley waits. He is the ultimate pragmatist, waiting to see which way the wind of victory will blow. You are not at the battle. You are miles away, imprisoned by your husband's cautious neutrality, waiting. The hours of that day, August 22nd, 1885, must feel like an eternity, the culmination of a life of struggle, sacrifice, and relentless, single-minded focus. Everything, your son's life, your own, the future of the kingdom, hangs in the balance of this single battle. Then, at the critical moment, as Richard III makes a desperate, valiant charge aimed directly at Henry, Sir William Stanley finally commits his forces. They crash into the flank of the Royalist army. The tide turns in an instant. Richard is surrounded, pulled from his horse, and killed, fighting to the last. The news comes to you. Lord Stanley himself found Richard's crown lying discarded in a hawthorn bush and placed it on your son's head, acclaiming him King Henry VII on the field of battle. It is over. You have won. You stand now, not as a child in the shadows, but as the most powerful woman in the kingdom. You are styled My Lady the King's Mother, a title of unprecedented authority. You do not officially rule, but your influence is immense. Your counsel sought on every major decision of state. You have your own household larger than the Queen's. You sign your name Margaret R., a flourish usually reserved for a reigning monarch. The wealth that was once the chain that bound you is now a tool you wield with masterful precision, founding colleges at Cambridge, patronizing the arts, and securing the foundations of your son's dynasty. You have transformed the pain of your past into the bedrock of your power. The girl who was sold at 12, who gave birth in terror at 13, who buried 3 husbands and outlived countless enemies, has placed her son on the throne of England. It is a victory so total, so absolute, that it should taste of nothing but sweetness. And yet, in the quiet moments, in the deep of the night, When the trappings of power fall away, is there a hollowness to the triumph? You have achieved everything you set out to do, but the fight has been your entire life. You have sacrificed all possibility of personal happiness, of a life chosen for yourself, for the single, all-consuming goal. You love your son deeply, but your love has always been intertwined with ambition, a mother's devotion and a strategist's long game fused into one. You walk through the halls of Westminster, the very place where your fate was once bartered away. Now lords and bishops bow before you. You are the matriarch, the survivor, the architect of the new age. You have outplayed them all. You gaze upon the new monument being constructed for you in the Abbey, a magnificent bronze effigy that will capture your likeness for all time. It shows a woman in the pious robes of her later years, her hands folded in prayer, her face serene. But stone and bronze cannot capture the fire. They cannot tell the story of the terrified child bride, or the determined young mother, or the cunning political mastermind. They cannot show the woman of steel that was forged from a broken girl. The girl who once stood silent while men decided her future became the woman who decided the future of England itself. Your story, whispered through the centuries, is a testament, a warning, and a triumph, a reminder that in the great, cruel game of power, the one who endures is the one who wins, and you, Margaret Beaufort, have endured it all.